and welcome to this episode about mobility as a service, the solution for sustainable travel. So Nobina has launched the app Travis, and really fast it has become the most leading platform for mobility as a service in Sweden. And in this episode we're going to talk about how MaaS can provide to even more sustainable travel without compromising convenience or cost for the customers. And last but not least, is there a market for mobility as a service even outside the big cities? And here with me in this studio I have John Strand. You are head of commercial B2C operations at Nobina.
Yes.
We are so glad that you are here.
Thank you so much.
And please, take it away.
Yes, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here in beautiful Varberg to discuss mobility as a service and what we can do for sustainable mobility in the future. I would like to begin a bit about maybe the more theoretical and visionary aspects of mobility as a service. If you would Google mobility as a service, you would find 374 million hits on Google. So it's by far a well-used phenomenon in the public transport sector, and I would say even a buzzword. However, the vision from the beginning was actually to make the private car ownership more or less obsolete, and also to get more people to use the public transport. We are right now in a pandemic where we don't use public transport the way we used to do. But still, for a more sustainable mobility in the future, public transport is the basis of a mobility system. What does a MaaS system consist of? Well, again, the foundation and basis is the public transport. What you normally would see as maybe the second choice would be micromobility that has absolutely boomed in at least the Western economies. But also one very natural thing of a person's mobility habits is walking, actually. Using your own legs to get you from A to B from time to time. But also maybe the stuff that you don't use every day, carpools, car sharing, and even rental cars. Also, of course, taxis. And I would say, even though that the vision is to make the private car not used as much as before, you still have to have a parking solution, maybe not always for the private car, but also for carpools and car sharing, for instance. And also what we see as well from the more digital platforms, Uber Eats, Bolt Eats, for instance, delivery services is coming more and more of a day-to-day necessity for the customer. Also, MaaS platforms, often apps, makes the mobility ecosystem accessible for the end user. So what has actually been the root of all this? What has made this MaaS revolution occur? I would say the first thing is the urbanization and also the need of smart cities. That we have a more and more urbanized society, and that would not be only for the Western societies, but also for the whole of the world. Sweden is one of the most rapidly urbanizing countries in the world. And with this trend of urbanization, we do need more smart mobility. And that has been one of the causes for MaaS to emerge. Also the sharing economy, maybe, as I said, the micromobility of the digital solutions has been very, very big force in driving this. And also to connect public transport with other modes of mobility as a multimodal system for an ecosystem to evolve. And maybe one of the most important thing as well is that we do see that we have a more and more trend towards more individual solutions for the customer. So these four key drivers is what we see as the most important drivers behind the MaaS solution, the MaaS revolution. You also talk about 4 levels of MaaS. Maybe the ones that are most commonly used, if you say like for Google Maps, is a planning tool, sometimes in real time, but that you can actually see more or less where to travel all over the world in a planning tool as Google Maps. The next step would be to start selling tickets within the planning tool. And what I'm representing Travis today, this is the stage where we are at right now. And after that, the third step would be to start bundling tickets, solutions together, so that you can have a price offering, for instance. And the fourth step is when you have incentivized the whole thing, and we still don't really see any MaaS initiatives coming this far. But the trend is definitely moving towards this more complex ecosystem solutions. So how can MaaS help public transport? I'm coming from Nobina, a company working with public transport solutions, so why do we do this? I would say that for us it's very important to always state that public transport is the foundation of a sustainable mobility system. We can't have every citizen in a city like Varberg using only the private car. And if you go into bigger cities like Gothenburg, Malmö, Stockholm, then you need to have a mass transport system to be sustainable. And also, we can connect all kind of mobility and traffic systems in a MaaS solution. And in that respect, we also can connect regions with traffic systems. And I would say that the MaaS solution finally gives the end user for the first time the real opportunity to have a first and last mile solution. And I would also say, and I would also stress that MaaS would help public transport to solve maybe its biggest problem. Because public transport normally takes the customer from a place where they really don't want to be. For instance, a bus station. No one lives at a bus station. To another bus station where they don't really want to end up, because that is normally not the end station for the customer. So that is the biggest problem that the public transport might have, and actually have the risk of losing out on customers. And also, I would say that MaaS gives public transport the means to actually increase the market share and not lose market shares, because the debate for the last few years have maybe stressed that MaaS would make the public transport lose market shares. I would say that on the contrary. I would also like to show this example how MaaS can be a very effective tool to connect traffic system and connect regions. And that example will be the Greater Copenhagen. Greater Copenhagen is said to be the largest market in the Nordics, and it's by far the largest mobility market in the Nordics. However, the real challenge is that there's not a cohesive system. It's a lot of traffic systems that don't really connect in all aspects. And that has been very clear now during the pandemic, where we've had even further problems than before with the border barriers, for instance. So cohesive traffic systems would enable increased mobility, enable more movement. And this could actually be the kickstart that the region would need after the COVID. And a MaaS integration would give the possibility and the opportunity for this gigantic mobility market to actually have a first and last mile solution. From your house outside Lund to your working address in the outskirts of Copenhagen, with one booking, one planning tool. And the good thing about this is there is no need for any common ticketing system between Sweden and Denmark. There is actually no need for any procurements. So this is actually a really, really good step for the future. So how do we at Travis and Nobina look at MaaS? Well, we think that this can really give the public an alternative to private car ownership. And also, as we come from the industry, we strongly believe that public transport is always the foundation in all sustainable mobility. I can't stress this enough. We also think that the full range offer is a key. You cannot build a MaaS system with only public transport and micromobility. You need to have carpools, taxis, parking. We are not there yet, but we are on a good way to solve this issue. We also see that the younger customer tend to consume mobility in a different way than maybe my generation did. For them, the micromobility solutions are a very natural way to use their mobility. But also, if we can connect this to the public transport, there is a lot to gain from that. So, needs to have a really close cooperation between the mobility operators, the PTAs and the smaller micromobility companies, taxi companies, for instance, are very much companies that has a good digital maturity. We also believe in a commission-based business model for us as a MaaS platform operator. There are other business models with subscriptions and so on, but we do believe that what the customer pays for in mobility, that is what they get. There's also a key feature that all services has to be integrated. There are services that are deep linked, but in the future and in the long run, all services has to be very integrated. So I'm going to move on to Travis. What is Travis? Well, Travis is the Nobina MaaS platform that we have launched, and it's completely in-house developed by our own developers, so that is an app that we are really proud of. Nobina was quite early out on the MaaS landscape and bought an app called Resande a number of years ago. We still have more than 500,000 users, and that has been very much of an inspiration for Travis to evolve. And Travis as an app is an app where the customer can search, book and pay for mobility. Of course, public transport is the foundation, but the customer gets tailor-made mobility within Travis from their own personal wishes or what we recommend for them. Today, all public transport in Sweden is searchable, but you can't yet buy all public transport in Travis. And the services that we are offering is mainly integrated. We see cooperation with more or less international or national mobility partners, but also open to local initiatives. What is key though is that you have to have a digital maturity as a MaaS operator or as a MaaS solution. And what I mean with that is, if we are able to integrate within Travis a service, you need to have a specific level of digital maturity. It is a commission-based business model and no subscription. So if we look at what we have accomplished so far, it was launched in Greater Stockholm area in October 2019 as a pilot. And the pilot was in the city of Barkarby, where Nobina, SL, which is the Stockholm PTA, and Järfälla municipality had an aim to make the world's most modern public transport, where a MaaS solution was a natural part of that. However, it's no longer a pilot, it's a launch product, and what has been the real success story is that we are a digital reseller of the PTA tickets. That means that you have the same possibility to buy a ticket within Travis as you would do in the PTA's own digital apps. And we have a complete MaaS offering. Some of the services are deep linked and some are integrated. In the long run, everything is to be integrated. And today, Travis is Sweden's largest MaaS platform. It's been downloaded more than 200,000 times. And I would say that we have very positive customer responses, good rating on both App Store and Google Play. And we have a Nordic roadmap to roll this out in a number of Nordic cities in the near future. And to show you again, I'm moving back to this picture with the different MaaS levels. Travis is right now as a planning ticketing tool, but we're moving pretty rapidly down to start bundling services where you can have a complete offering with maybe a 30-day ticket for the public transport and a 30-day ticket for a micromobility solution. also to show what has happened with the market share in Barkarbystaden after the launch of Travis, the autonomous bus service, and also the BRT. You can now see that the market share for public transport in Barkarbystaden is as much as 67%. And that is a huge number if we compare to both national and international comparisons. And the increase has been from somewhat 45% up to 67%, and it's a great success story. The public transport solution in combination with all the other mobility solutions has been that you can really, as a customer, have a tailor-made sustainable mobility solution. And I would like to end off with some key learnings that we have learned on our journey with the first real MaaS solution that has been launched in the Swedish market. It is a key that you have to have public transport with full ticket offering. And when I say full, is that you cannot only handle it with single tickets. You need to have a 30-day period ticket or some kind of longer period ticket. You also have to have a really competition-neutral approach. We want to give the customer as much mobility as possible within Travis. And there is no exclusivity. We don't exclude anyone. As long as they have a technical maturity and we have a good service, then they are very welcome in Travis. Also that the services has to be integrated. You have to have the same experience when you are using, for instance, a Voi bike in Travis as you would if you had used Voi's own app. Well, in that respect, you need, as I said before, mobility operators will well develop the APIs and so on. And also, cooperation is the key to success. You can't buy a MaaS solution by yourself. And maybe the last thing, I would say that the best MaaS platforms are best developed in as a commercial and open access market. So that would be my final message. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Very interesting. I wonder, when do I have the Travis app here in Varberg in my hand and use it?
Hopefully pretty soon. We have all the technology. You have to have some kind of agreement with the PTA, and okay. We have some services already integrated, could be in use. However, Varberg is a market where maybe the larger international micromobility companies have not yet launched. So that would need more development from our side in that case to find more local initiatives. Okay,
yeah. So you talked about the success story in Barkarby. Yeah. What's behind the success story there? Why is it so successful just in Barkarby?
Well, I would say that we have put the spotlight on the public transport in Barkarby. We've shown that this is the real deal. This is really modern and the technical front edge solutions. And that in combination with our MaaS solution has, I would say, given the Barkarby citizens the world's best public transport.
Thank you. I need to travel to Barkarby and try it over there. So in this episode we have some more guests. We have our guest in the sofa studio. There we have David Eriksson, Head of Communications at Nobina. And we have Andreas Almqvist, CEO at Hallandstrafiken. Welcome. And John, you will go and join them, over there. And David, I will let the word to you.
Thank you so much, and great fun to be in the second studio on this very good location. I'm joined by Andreas, the CEO of Hallandstrafiken, but you also have a lot of years from Västtrafik, the big PTA in this region. First of all, I guess John mentioned that it was more than 350 million something hits on Google if you search for MaaS. So I guess in your experience, you have been following the discussion, the debates among PTAs, and in your, what is your first sort of findings, or what's your response to this MaaS concept?
Well, first of all, thanks for being here, taking me here, and a very good presentation from you, Jan.
Thank you.
Interesting. As you say, we've been talking for many years about MaaS, but my feeling now is that it's about to happen, and we see signs that it's taking place, and we're making it happen all over Europe and the world. And Barkarby is a very good example. So it's very interesting and good and nice to see. Yeah.
What would you say that the discussion today among PTAs, I guess you are having discussions with SL or Västtrafik or Skånetrafiken, or perhaps even towards Copenhagen and Denmark. What would you say the debate today is coming closer and closer, or is it still something that you see as a tech revolution? Or
no, it's not a tech revolution anymore, because it's out there and it's working. So it's really close, and I think when we're talking around with our neighbors in public transport, we all do agree that we had to add value to our customers and to be able to reach our goals, which very often is about taking market shares, as the example of Barkarby. And for that, we have to do something. Public transport has more or less been the same offer for some 30 or maybe 40 years, and we're good at mass transport, trams, buses, everything. But now we have to add something, and I would say MaaS and Mobility as a Service, adding new values to the backbone of this service would make us more attractive.
I think that's an interesting notion that, the whole idea is about creating relevance or value, as you said. Jon, there's been a great discussion among different MaaS concepts around the world about the platform in terms of an economic or business-wise, going from sort of kind of expensive payment plans to more of pay-as-you-go systems. What would you say today would be best practice, or what's going on?
Well, obviously, having launched a pay-as-you-go solution, I believe in that. We can see that there has been subscriptions models throughout, I would say, the world, but at least in Europe, that maybe not have kicked off the way it was expected. I would say that probably in the long run, the subscription models, maybe especially in the B2B context, will be bigger than they are right now. But I would say that the customer wants to get the mobility as they pay for. So that is what at least we are trying to offer them.
Would you say after this COVID period where you have been doing everything sort of online, you have been having afterworks online, meetings online, your food online, do you think that the traditional public transport customer has also been, I'm expecting more today from a PTA or from public transport in terms of digital solutions?
I think they do, and I think the time is right, not only because of the pandemic, that's maybe the last push for going that way, but we're ready, and I think and believe our customers are ready, and mentioned maturity also by our customers to achieve these services and to use them. So yes, there's a market out there, and they're demanding more values, more value added to the service we provide. So this could be.
I'm really, Emma also asked the question before, and I guess that a lot of the audience here, not only listening to the English language, but also in Swedish, that when do you see that, yes, we're getting closer and closer here in Hallandstrafiken, of course here in Varberg, where we could start integrating public transport together with new solutions. How far off in the future do you think that we are?
We are not that far, I would say, but we are depending on, or we need more micromobility pop-ups in Varberg, and the market has to be ready to add those values. Travis is a great example of a platform that could be used, but we have to load it from outside with the services, and when we feel that is a place we could go. But it's not that far. It's not.
Here's also an interesting step or discussion among different PTAs and different regions in Sweden, where some are saying, yeah, it's going to be so complicated because I need, first of all, to establish a bicycle system, and then I need to establish my own whatever system. What's your perception among that? I know that here in Varberg's kommun has created a cooperation with Crescent and Monarch, I think. What's your take on that?
That is, first of all, a very interesting initiative, which I think is very good. Obviously, there are municipalities and regions in Sweden where micromobility will not evolve. That is just a fact. But Varberg and Halland is the size of a market that could be interesting. You might need to use other solutions to maybe wait for Voi or T to launch, and then maybe that is the best solution. Also, maybe moving away from e-scooters to e-bikes instead, which is maybe a more senior way to use micromobility, longer range, for instance. So, but a close cooperation between the municipalities and the private actors. There have been problems lately with procurements and public tendering for micromobility, which is quite difficult to manage. So have faith in the public market, the open market. So I think so.
I must, because I have John representing Travis on stage with me and a MaaS platform. I also have Andreas as one of the large PTAs here. You're gonna have to ask each other some kind of a bit tricky question, like, John, why are you not giving that? If you could open up that service, I think that would help us. And John, towards Andreas, I think if you from Hallandstrafiken only did that would be a huge step. So I'm going to make it a bit more uncomfortable that you have to ask each other for the next steps. Who should we start with?
I can start. Yeah, Brian, from what do you need from Hallandstrafiken to make Travis come to Halland or Varberg?
Well, first of all, we need to have an agreement between Travis and Hallandstrafiken, and that is for sure. We're moving into a national ticketing system maybe in Sweden that could make things easier. And also, if you continue to have this open approach towards micromobility, maybe digital taxi as well. That would be very, very useful. So, and I'll more or less answer the question that I was going to ask, but I do believe that PTAs that see the role in the ecosystem and are willing to work with combined mobility, they are the winners of the future. So that is the biggest need, I would say. Yeah.
Do you think that we in Sweden actually can, compete with the international giants in terms of creating services and to compete for the space in your cell phone? Do you think that we actually have the technology or know-how or understanding to be able to compete with, I don't know, senior international giants on this field? What do you say?
Yeah, I think so, of course. And the reason for this is that the mobility markets are normally local. They can be international, but at the end of the day, they are local. And when you give the customer a local solution, then that's when you really get this solution that makes the ecosystem fly. So and that is what I would say that Google they are having a problem with a local solution in Halland. So technology-wise, yes, we are well ahead, and we can see that we have mobility startups in Sweden that has been and are very successful abroad as well. So I definitely think that we have both the technology, the business sense for creating solutions that could be successful in the future.
Because if you look into Hallandstrafiken, it feels that you have been very proactive in these last couple of years with rerouting the traffic systems, with the planning, the electrical buses, also in digital services. So it feels that they are taking big steps in Hallandstrafiken right now.
Yeah, we have, and that's nice. But we also need to take the next steps after that. And I think mobility as a service or defining new rules or adding new values to our core services is essential to be able to reach our goals. So it's a natural next step, and we have to sign off these things that has to be in place to be able to do this. But we're well on our way, I would say. So,
and not see the different modes of mobility as competition, but rather as complements to each other.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be very difficult going to IKEA and having a Bokula Billy on your back on an e-scooter.
Yeah.
And in the same way, public transport is going to be extremely hard to compete with in terms of transporting hundreds and perhaps thousands of people on a very small space and using the infrastructure. I'm also turning towards the chat rooms and Emma in the different studio or the second studio. Do we have any questions for our team here?
Thank you very much, your three gentlemen in the second studio. We have no questions from the chat yet, but the chat room is open and will be open for the whole week. So please continue to ask questions in that room, and one of these three gentlemen will answer the questions in that room during the week. If you're not looking live right now. So if you are okay over there, David, do you have anything more to ask, or?
I think we have one small, because later on this afternoon is going to be a very concrete discussion about the future of public transport, about infrastructure together with municipality, together with colleagues of Nobina and also Hallandstrafiken. If you could ask one question to the next session coming up on stage, what would that question be so that Emma could transfer it?
Well, I don't know if it's a question, but I would push on and pull for the attention and the importance of being able to have this backbone working as in public transport. The infrastructure is essential. It's not any good if you add values on top and the ground is not solid. So that is, it's not a question, it's a wish.
Just to re-establish the importance of actual physical planning, transportation and infrastructure, because the speed and what we can do is really the relevance of the product. Yeah. Jon, do you have any ads or comments for the next session? What should we really do?
Very much agree, and I also think that the digital journey that we are on, it's very essential, and we have to keep on working with this. There are still areas within the whole public transport market and the whole mobility market that needs to have more digital development. So that I would say that would be key as well.
I guess that will be all from this MaaS discussion. To all of the audience sitting internationally and at home or in their offices, please send us in questions, and Andreas and John and myself are going to answer all of them, we hope, during this week. And by that will be all from the studio in Varberg.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jon, David and Andreas, and I'm looking forward to more MaaS in my life. Thank you for this episode.